What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Clemente Collector. And on today's episode, I have the founder of the Clemente Museum in Pittsburgh. His name is Duane Rieder. He's going to be showing us some rare Clemente pieces from the museum. He's going to talk to us about the museum. You don't want to miss this.
Batting third, playing right field, number 21, Roberto Clemente.
All right, let's bring him on, Mr. Duane Rieder. Duane, thanks for coming on the show.
You got it, man. How's it going?
I can't complain. I just got done with my work day, and anytime I can end my day and look at some Clemente stuff, I'm excited. So
nice.
So Duane, let's just start off with some basic stuff. Some of my viewers have been to the Clemente Museum. A lot of them saw the video I made recently where I got to come to the museum about 3 months ago. But how long has the museum been open, and can you just give us a little bit of background on it?
Yeah. Before we get to the museum, I want to tell you your piece was fantastic.
Thank you.
That the interview with Sam Nover, you playing that and showing stuff, and you did an incredible job on that. And we were blessed to get Sam Nover here twice and sit him down and hang out with him for a while, and he would tell us some stories and stuff. And it's sad that he passed because he was just getting ready to kind of start telling us some really good stuff, and then he was gone. But great job, and that's a nice tribute to him because that's one of the best interviews, if not the best of all time. So great job on that.
Thank you, Duane. I appreciate that.
And thanks for having me on. And I'm sitting in the I'm in the second floor of the museum right here. This was the bunkhouse where the firemen slept. I bought this building back in 1994 while I'm doing the calendar on Roberto Clemente. So through my photography business, I get to kind of reignite my love for Roberto Clemente. I was a fan as a kid. I'm a pirate junkie. I grew up in the 60s. I got an autograph from Roberto in 1971. And then, as you know, he passes away in 72. So then he's gone. And then I get away from baseball a little bit. I get into basketball. I start following Dr. J. And then all of a sudden it's 94 and I'm asked to do this calendar. And I'm like, what? A calendar on Roberto? Oh my God, I would die to do that project. I had just completed this photo job on Mario Lemieux. I did all his stuff for Leaf hockey cards. And so that got me this job with doing the calendar. And so the greatest day of my life was flying to Puerto Rico to go to the Clemente house and meet Vera. And that's where I came to the fork in the road, and I go right with Vera. And it was just an incredible day. And I tell everybody, I have a photo downstairs of Roberto standing on that. He had the bridge going over the moat to his modern house that he bought her in 1965. And I always had this image burned in my head of Roberto on that bridge. First of all, he was beautiful, and he's wearing this blue silk shirt, and he's holding a pet monkey on a leash. I grew up in the country, and we had a cow. We had a pony. He's got a pet monkey on a leash, and I'm like, wow! Of course, Roberto has a pet monkey. And that image was burned in my brain. And I'm now walking across that bridge to meet Vera, and I knock on the door, and the knocker was a baseball bat with a 21 on it. And I go, knock, knock, knock. And Vera opens up the door, and she's like, "Hola, Duane, hola." And she's hugging me, and I'm from a long line of non-huggers, and I'm like, kind of, oh boy, and what does hola mean? I don't even know. And she invites me in, and I stay there for 2 days, and I photograph all these things, and then I bring back all this stuff to photograph here to finish the rest of the half of the calendar. And so she leaves me leave the house. She lets me go with a batting helmet, a jersey, the 2 rings. I bring back the 60,
Whoa,
the 71 World Series rings, and she only knows me as Duane the photographer.
wow.
So at that moment, that's when I'm telling her to stop letting people take things from the house because people were not returning things, and people were filing bankruptcy and embezzling money from her. And she was just so nice and kind that she trusted everyone. So I said, as I'm standing there holding like $2 million worth of stuff, don't let anybody else do this because they're not coming back. And so our bond forms when she comes for the All-Star game in '94, and she gets everything I took back. And a few things are better now. I fixed some photographs and I took care of some things. And so that's what starts our relationship. And I told her that I could start helping her with photos, me being I'm a commercial photographer, and I had dark rooms and I had assistants and stuff. And I said, hey, I could help you with some of those wet photos that are in your house. And boom, that starts a relationship. I start the archive. I get these photos from that got ruined that she got in the White House. She goes in May of '73 with Manny Sanguian and Stargell and Blass and Dan Galbraith. And she had these photos of Nixon presenting the Citizens Medal to her on Roberto's behalf, and they were ruined. And my brother, being a total geek, he was like, we could call the White House and get some new photos. I'm like, you can't call the White House. You can call the White House archive. And so he calls, maybe not now, you might not be able to call there now, but back then you could. And I get on with the photographer who took the photos, and he says, hey, I could make you, some new photos. I said, you have the 4 that you made her? And he goes, 4? He goes, I took a whole roll. I was like, no way, there's more than the 4? He goes, yeah, I shot 36. And I'm like, how much to see the 36? And he goes, $20. And I'm like, give me your address. So he gave me the address. I shipped him I FedExed him a $20 bill and a return FedEx using my FedEx number so it could be really fast. So in 2 days, I had a proof sheet of the photos. And so I picked the 4 that she wanted. But the reason she wanted those 4 so badly is her brother Orlando had just passed away, and he went to the White House with her, and she wanted them fixed. And so I saw ones where he was in the better shots with him in it. And I got 2 sets of each, and I flew to Puerto Rico and I surprised her. She didn't know that I found the negatives and that we got new photos. And that day she was like, Duane, you're now family. You're in the Clemente family, and you're going to be the official Clemente family archivist. And I'm like, so for $20, I bought my way into the family, and I got a job title out of it. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it was like a great day. She made us a paella dinner for my wife and my 2 daughters, and it was just this beautiful moment in time. And then I said, from here on in, I'm going to go full steam ahead, and I'm going to get every negative, every photo, every transparency I can find out there to help build this archive so you would have access to these photos. And so I've been doing it since 1995. So
yeah, I think, Duane, it's so cool. Like, it's just so cool how, like, just the fact that your profession and your passion was photography, and that passion just led you down this path where your career intersected with something you grew up loving, and now you were able to combine your 2 passions into this great museum. I just think, what's the chances? It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I tell everybody, and this will sound a little cocky, but I don't know that anybody else could have done this if I'm not a photographer. Now, I know I'm not a billionaire. If you were a billionaire and you had, endless amounts of money and you could just go buy anything you wanted, you could do something, but it wouldn't be this. It wouldn't be what we got cooking here, right? This started with photography. And then as I'm buying the photographs and negatives and transparencies, I'm getting into conversations with people. And then here's where it really happens. When I take the photo of the Steelers praying in the locker room in 2005, and then a lot of people think it's the Super Bowl image. I spend 6 weekends in the Steeler locker room, and I get the photo of a lifetime. And all these memorabilia dealers and collectors wanted the photo.
Wow,
So
I know what photo you're talking about too.
yeah.
Really
So
cool.
I would tell everybody, listen, because people would grump about my prices back then, where I was very expensive, and people were like, how do I get that photo? I'm like, do you have any Clemente stuff? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I'm looking for Clemente stuff. I need cards, I need posters, I need advertisements. Anything with Roberto on it, bring it to me and I'll trade you for one of my photos. I got half of the stuff in this building for trading my photography to get Clemente stuff. And they would dig and find something really unique. And 20 years ago, the stuff wasn't valued like it is today. The Clemente stuff has gone through the roof.
Oh yeah.
And so back in those days, they'd bring me all kinds of stuff, cards, great. People weren't even grading cards back then. So they'd bring me a couple Clemente cards and I'd be like, here's a print. And technically I could make the print in the dark room, and it wouldn't cost me an arm and a leg, but I could get then some cool Clemente stuff. And so it all started that I was pretty good at bartering. I had some stuff that people wanted, because I was also photographing the Steelers and Penguins and Pirates. And, so if I had a print or an image of something that somebody wanted, boom, I could trade them. And so this thing just unfolded. There was no plan here to have a Clemente museum. It was an archive just to help Vera and the family. And then in 2006, we're going to have the All-Star game in Pittsburgh again at the new, PNC Park. And she flew into town with her boys, and they called me after this meeting with the Pirates and Major League Baseball. And they were like, could we come over and talk to you about something? And I'm like, yeah. They come over. And on this day in June of 2006, there wasn't one piece of Clemente memorabilia on the first floor, which is now the museum.
Right.
And they asked, would you host a Clemente family party here for us? And I was like, wow, this could be cool. And I said, Vera, all the Clemente stuff is up on the second floor in the archive room, and your people are not going to want to walk up and down those steps all night. And she was like, oh, it's okay, Duane. We'll do the food and the wine and the dancing down here. And I was like, wait a minute, dancing? What do you mean dancing? And she goes, we're Puerto Rican. We dance and sing. And I'm like, oh, I want to be a part of that. And I want to see her dancing and singing. And she deserved a break. She had it really rough since that plane crashes into the ocean. People started taking advantage of her while she was down at the coast looking for parts of the plane and see if they would find anything of Roberto. And people were already at the house taking things out of the house. So she had a rough life, and raising kids on her own, that's tough. 3 boys. Can you imagine if you had 3 boys and they were young and they're full of piss and vinegar?
Wow.
So her hands were full, and my heart broke for her because my dad left my mom in 1967 with 5 kids, 6 and under.
Wow.
And so I know what it was like to see a mother struggle. And so I thought, oh, if I could just help her, I'm going to throw her this party. And so they headed back to Puerto Rico. I transformed the whole first floor into kind of what it is today, just for her party.
That's great.
When she came for the party, she came inside and just was blown away. And she was like, Duane, it's like a museum in here now. And I was like, can I do that? Am I allowed to open a museum? I did. The next day, we had 100,000 baseball junkies in town for Fan Fest.
Yeah.
And I drove around to the hotels with my assistant, and we gave out these little flyers that said, come see the Clemente exhibit at Engine House 25. And that's how it started.
That's crazy. That's so cool. It organically started. That is really cool. I'm about to have you show some of this stuff from the museum, but
yeah,
you get me really thinking, because my channel, I'm in a group of just guys who love baseball cards, and that's all we do. We look at baseball cards, we talk about baseball cards, but the one thing we rarely talk about is what photographer took certain pictures of the players in those cards. And in some ways, I kind of feel bad now that we don't give, especially the cards we love, the 60s Topps cards, we don't really give the photographers a lot of credit. We give Topps all the credit, or Bowman all the credit. It's really making me think differently about the baseball cards I look at.
Well, maybe down the road, we could do a part 2 to this, because there was a photographer that has spent his whole life, and he worked for Topps Baseball Cards.
Okay.
And I'm hearing about the collection right now, and I might be able to get a little access to it and find what images of Clemente and some of the guys that he shot. And I'm hoping to get files and stuff that we could use here at the museum. So I don't want to put any names out there yet because it's kind of top secret. But there's a couple archives that are out there that are about to break loose. And maybe then we could give some credit, because there's a lot of the guys that I don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
And so we could put something together though, and maybe do something and show, because I have, like, I couldn't give you the guy's name right now, but I have the original print of the 66 card downstairs in my safe, and it's fantastic. Yeah. And the guy's name's on the back of the print. And so I wanted to always do a little display with the photos and the cards. But I only have that one right now. But I think I'm about to get 10 more here real soon. So maybe we could do part 2 down the road.
I love it. Okay. All right. I'm definitely going to take you up on that if you get that file. But let's get to the main part of this. What are some of your favorite items from the museum, Duane?
Yeah. So I've got, as you know, and we just counted them yesterday. I have 700 things that are out that you can see right now. I've got, incredible stuff. Back in that case back there that's in red is the Silver Slugger from 61. I happen to be born in 1961, and some of the 61 stuff here is my favorite just because of my birth year, and 61 and 61 with 61 homers with Roger Maris, and then Roberto's breakout year is 61. So he wins the batting title. He wins his first Gold Glove. He's technically, but not technically, the MVP of the 61 All-Star game in San Francisco. He's, I don't think they even had an All-Star or a MVP at that moment in time, but he dies with the 61 All-Star ring on his finger. He never wore the 60 World Series ring once, or the 71 ring. He dies with that. Yeah, I learned the hard way from Vera. The first thing she asked me when I get to the house, we sit down and she starts saying, what do you want to take back to Pittsburgh? And I said, rings. Do you have any rings? And she goes, oh, I have rings. And she disappeared. They used to have this wall in the house it was a mural, and there was a magic door on it. She hits this button and the door opened up, and she disappeared. And I was like, whoa, where'd she go? And her son Luis was like, oh, don't worry, she's going to get you some rings. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting, she just disappeared into the wall. And she comes back, and at the end of the story, you're going to think I'm a jerk for sure, because I did. She comes with the box that the 71 World Series ring was given to Roberto in, and it was made of walnut, and it had the brass plaque on there with the quote, Danny Murtaugh's quote about the Pirates aren't dead yet. And she opens it up, and it's blue velvet inside, and there's the 61 and the 60 and the 71 World Series rings are in the box. Wow. And she goes, would these work? And I look in there like a total jerk, and I go, do you have any other rings? And she's like in shock. She's like, what other rings? And I go, well, I know for a fact that he loved the 61 All-Star ring. Do you have the 61 All-Star ring? And she has this look on her face, and now I'm getting kind of sad. I think I've gone down the wrong road here. And she goes, well, no, there's these big windows in their house facing the ocean, and she's pointing to the windows, and she goes, he was wearing it when, and I go, well, what? I don't understand. And she goes, he was wearing it when he dies in the plane crash. And I'm like, oh no, I just asked the worst thing possible to her. And I look now, and she's got a tear coming down her eye, and I got a tear, and I'm just like, oh, those rings will do. So I leave the house the next day with those 2 rings in that box. And I kept him, I had him here at the museum for 10 years before she ended up asking me to take him back home because she said she missed them, because I think she used to actually keep him in her bedroom,
Wow.
dresser. And so I stuck my foot in my mouth so bad. Do you have any other rings? And I was like, cow.
It makes me wonder, and you might not know, why was the 61 All-Star ring so important to him? Why did he wear it all the time, I guess? Do you know?
Well, because he, like I say, he was basically the MVP of that All-Star game, and that made him, that he felt that he finally got the credit that he was due. In 60, he's not even considered for the MVP, and his numbers pretty much are better than Dick Groat, and he was the man all season on the team. And then they give, and he wasn't mad at Groat, he was mad at the sports writers because they just had it out for him, and he felt that, and he felt it was his color, and he just felt that he was getting the short end of the stick there, and that he was 8th in the voting. He got 1 first place vote. I mean, that was ridiculous. His numbers in 60 were good. And so in 61, he feels he's been validated. And so when he gets that ring, he wore that ring the rest of his life. And so cool. I knew it meant something to him. And so that's why I asked for it. And then I got Vera to cry. But then we formed our bond at that moment when I told her I was born in 61 and how I love Roberto. And, that just made, our relationship kind of good at that moment. And then I put the 71, I brought the rings back here. We didn't even put the 60 ring in the calendar. I put the 71 ring in sitting on the box, showing the Danny Murtaugh's quote. So, a couple good pieces of memorabilia right there. However, my favorite piece in the museum today is this Adirondack bat from 71, 72. And the reason I love it, first of all, and that's why I'm wearing the gloves. It's 38 ounces, 36 inches. And I get to, what I actually do when the baseball players show up here, and it's got some beautiful ball marks on it. He smacked the heck out of this bat. What I do is I let the baseball players hold this bat. I've got 13 bats of his here, and I've got another one that I actually love from 1966 when he's MVP, but it's in a frame, so I felt I could pick this one up and show you this one to you guys. But I let Aaron Judge, Pete Alonso, Manny Machado, you name them, they've swung this bat. And I used to do it just so the guys could feel 38 and 39 ounce bats, because they were swinging 31 and a half ounce bats, 34 inches, right? And they're these big guys, Albert Pujols, if you put your arm around him to take a photo, you can't even get your arm around his shoulders. He's so big. And they're all swinging 31 and a half ounce bats. So they swing this, and the first thing they say is, how big was Roberto? And I say 5'10", 175. And they're just like, nobody could hit this bat. And I'm like, he got 3,000 hits with this bat. What are you talking about? And they're like, Bryce Harper says, well, obviously he didn't bat against any good pitchers. Ooh, and then you see the veins coming out in my temple, and I'm saying, oh yeah, have you ever heard of a guy named Bob Gibson, or maybe Sandy Koufax, who's better than any pitcher today? I mean, other than Skeens, who we love.
Yes.
Koufax was just fantastic,
Oh my gosh.
Drysdale and Palmer, and I tell everybody, Nolan Ryan when he was 21. Clemente's batting against Ryan when he was a rookie, and he was throwing flames. But there was no radar gun back then, and so nobody knew that he was throwing 110 at your head, because he was really wild when he first came up. And so Roberto got hits off of Nolan Ryan, throwing that fast, and Bob Gibson. He calls the shot where he's going to knock one through Gibson's legs, and he breaks his leg. So he definitely could hit Bob Gibson, even though he did not want to get hit by Bob Gibson. So what happened is, after letting the guys swing these bats, they started like, ooh, I could get the mojo. And you know how superstitious they are. And they're like, I could get the mojo from this bat. And so then some of the guys would hit a home run the next day against the Pirates. Derek Sheldon would call me in the morning and be like, "Hey, Duane, how about you stop letting those visitors swing that Clemente bat?" Absolutely not, Derek. If I could start something with letting them touch that bat, you could send the young Pirates over here right now. I said, I'll let them take this home and sleep with it if they want. But I'm letting Judge swing this bat, or Manny Machado. And here's a great story. And you can look this up. It's very, very searchable. Look up the first day that Albert Pujols starts hitting in his final season. He comes to this museum on May 21st, real easy to remember, May 21st at midnight. And he comes in, and he can't, at that moment in time, can't buy a hit. He's not in the starting lineup. He's struggling a little bit. And maybe the Cardinals are thinking, hey, did we make a mistake here signing him for this last season? He comes here, and he's showing his girlfriend that I let him swing the bat. I gave him this one here, exact bat right here. And wow. I gave her another Adirondack that I have on the rack on the 71 World Series rack right there. And they're both swinging the bats. And Albert's in his, pool hole stand. And he goes, honey, Duane lets me swing this bat so I can see what 38 ounces feels like. And I walk right up to him, and I look him right in the eye, and I tap him on the shoulder, and I go, yeah, Albert, and everybody needs a little Clemente mojo now and again. Next day, he hits 2 homers to win the game for the Cardinals.
Wow.
He calls me up in the morning and goes, hey, Duane, come down here. I got something for you.
No way.
I have the bat hanging here in the museum. So you can search it. From that moment on, boom, he's in the starting lineup. He's the man. He gets 700 homers that season. He's on fire.
That is cool.
Starts right here with the Clemente mojo. So I love having, the bats here and letting guys touch them. Some people, and I'm wearing the gloves as much as I can when I'm touching it, but I don't make them put gloves on, and I let them literally feel, what 38, 39 ounces feels like, and they go crazy. And there's been so many guys. Ask O'Neill Cruz. He's done it 3 times where he's hit a homer the next day after being here. So there's definitely some mojo in this building. I could tell you 10 stories about this property that are all connected to Roberto Clemente, and I'm just a puppet here. Roberto's like the puppeteer, and I don't even know why I'm here. It's just like, I love this so much, and I'm glad that this happened, and I'm glad that it unfolded in this property, but I can barely explain it other than I have this love for Roberto that then transpired over into Vera. When I met her, my heart broke for her, and I really just wanted to help her. And so I guess if you do things for the right reason, I never, ever, ever set out to like, oh, I'm going to make money. I'm not that type of person to begin with. Yeah. I would rather have stuff here than money, but yet, you have to pay the bills. You have to pay the bank. You got to pay the gas company. So yes, we charge $21 to get in here, and we do sell shirts and hats and things to pay these bills. But I've never set out to like, I'm going to make some money on this project. I turned it into a 501c3 day one. It took a year and a half to get the paperwork done with the IRS. But day one, I decided I've got to make it a nonprofit because people will think that I'm trying to make money here. And we just want to stay in business, and we want to keep improving the property and keep buying memorabilia and trading for memorabilia and getting things on loan here to make it better for people, because we get so many people that come back. I've had a guy come and took 10 tours here. And
oh my God.
Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? I was like, you got to get a hobby, my man. He goes, it is coming here. And so it's because we keep adding things and changing things and making things better and better. And so our goal right now is to get an elevator. We've been raising money for years to build this elevator, and due to COVID and the economy the way it is, the prices keep going up. But we're going to break ground on that elevator probably here in a few weeks, which is going to be a real big moment, because then we can get everybody access to the second floor.
That is great. Yeah, I mean, I can attest. Obviously, like I said, I've been there, and you could tell you guys' heart is in the right place. It's not to make money for yourselves. I met Vince, the tour guide, and I said, wow, this is a nice little job for retirement. He goes, oh, I just do this for fun. We don't get paid to be tour guides. I was like, wow, you guys are living. You're just so passionate about what this is all about, and I just love it. I really do. It's so cool.
Yeah. Well, he did forget to tell you one thing. He works for wine. So all my docents love the wine I make, the Clemente wines and stuff. And so I actually pay them all in wine. So I don't give them green, I give them red, and they're really happy. Vince was here last night. We had a big event, and I had 4 docents that came. We only asked for 2, and they're like, we're coming. We want to get a bottle of wine. And so they just love it here. They love it here so much. And once you get, once you're a true Clemente guy to the core, or girl, because Mary is a docent here and she loves it, and she cries every time she comes and tells stories. But once it's in your blood, it's in your blood. And if you're a Clemente, if you're into Clemente, this is Mecca right now. I mean, this is the best place on earth. So for sure. You got to come. If you haven't been here, you got to come.
Oh, 100%. There's so many different documents downstairs on the walls to read. I could see how that guy just keeps coming back. Like you can really get down into the details. Like you have his Cons contract down there, his Cons hot dogs, whenever he signed the deal with that. Like those are just documents, especially baseball card fans. We never get to see stuff like that, and it's just so cool,
And what's crazy is if you remember, he's getting paid $150 by Cons, and now those cards are gold, right? If you have one in good shape, those cards are gold, worth thousands of dollars, and he was getting paid $150.
I know, it's insane. I got one that's completely hot dog juice and everything, and it was like $150. Like you said, it's crazy. I think you brought a vase with you. Did you want to share the vase and tell us about that?
I want to show you another favorite piece.
Yeah,
disappeared. This is something that a lot of people don't even know, that Roberto was into ceramics, to where he took a potter's wheel and a kiln on the road with the Pirates, and he would sit in his hotel room and throw pottery and stuff. And they had 3 kilns in Puerto Rico. He made this piece here, and this handle on the side broke off as he was ready to put it in the kiln. So he carved in Vera with a heart, and in the heart there's a RC. And then when he put it in the kiln, it cracks. And so then he never gave it to Vera. And he left it at Phil Dorsey's house. And that's where I become very, very good friends with Phil Dorsey during the Clemente calendar and after. And he actually helped me get this whole thing started here.
Oh, wow.
And so when he passed, he actually asked me to take care of his daughter and granddaughter with things. And so I did. And she let me take this vase because it was sitting behind his recliner chair, his pretty much half of his life. And so I brought it here. And then during the auction that was in Miami for the All-Star game, Vera put a pitcher and 4 mugs in the auction. And I bid on those, but I got outbid because I was trying to get 20 different other things. But we did get the golf clubs, that beautiful suit that we have downstairs. We got a bunch of negatives of Roberto teaching kids and stuff like that. But I lost the mugs and the vase. And one of the people that outbid me was like, I'll bring one of the mugs down. You can have it there on loan. But it's been so long, I lost touch with this person. So if anybody's watching this show and you have something that matches this, he liked this green kind of patina look. And so he did the mugs and the vase in the same style. The man was definitely an artist. He spent, he didn't want to go out drinking with the guys and to where they almost thought he was kind of antisocial and stuff, but he just didn't want to frequent bars because of the stories about Mickey Mantle, Billy Martin, those guys going out drinking and busting up bars and getting in fights and stuff. And he just didn't want anything like that to go back to Puerto Rico to his parents. And so he came up with ways to keep himself busy, to occupy his mind. And he also had a sleeping issue that he was dreaming that, or having a nightmare every night about, that he was going to die in a plane crash in the ocean and his body wouldn't be found. And so he was seeing that in his head when he'd go to sleep. And so he would do anything he could to stay up all night. And so he would catnap in the morning and during the day so that he didn't go into the deep sleep. And Vera would tell me stories when she'd come here that they had these 3 kilns and a pottery wheel in their basement in Puerto Rico, and him and her would stay up all night and throw pottery until she would hear the milkman put the milk in the milk case on the porch, and she'd be like, "Okay, it's time to take him upstairs and let him start taking these little cat naps." And so he didn't want to go to sleep at night, and so he tried to occupy his brain. And one of the first things I see when I go to the house, and you could imagine, the house was just filled floor to ceiling with Roberto's stuff of trophies and paintings and photos. And there was these lamps that he would make. He would make these lamps. He would take these brass cylinders and he would drill holes in them. And then he would glue gemstones inside these holes. And then when you turned the light on, it would make these cool colored lights, and I'm like, wow, this guy was a true artist. He was making all kinds of stuff. And then he would make these pieces of art out of driftwood. He would go walking on the beach and he would collect cool pieces of driftwood and bolt them together and stuff and make these little pieces of art. So he was always doing something.
Wow.
Here again, he didn't want to go out partying at night, and he just wanted to try to focus and then focus on baseball. And as we know, he was pretty good at baseball.
Definitely. You showed the bat from 1971, and I know a lot of people watching this will know this, but 1971, it was a fabulous season, and he was so good in the World Series. He was a World Series MVP. And a lot of people's pushback when Clemente gets brought up with some of the guys like Mantle and Mays is, well, he wasn't going to play that many more seasons, but he was still at the peak of his power, when that plane went down. And he put up better stats in his late 30s than any of those guys. Mantle, Mays, he was terrific in his late 30s. So
yeah, he was in great shape. He was now hurting inside. I mean, he played his whole career with a bad back and neck. He definitely had some issues. But he told most people, and I think even the Sam Nova interview, right? He says that he wanted to play 2 more years, rounded off to 20 years and 40 years old. And then he probably was going to go back to Puerto Rico and coach and maybe become the governor of Puerto Rico or something. I mean, he's definitely pretty into politics, and he wanted to try to make Puerto Rico a better place. And so that's where his energy was going. So he probably would have retired in a few more years. Manny Sanguillen will tell you the story where he said that he wanted to try to catch Pete Rose in hits. Not sure if that was possible. He said he could always go to the American League and be a DH, but not sure. I've never heard him say that from his own mouth. He wanted to play a couple more years if he could.
Yeah. What's your the museum has so many different rooms, so many different exhibits. Do you have a favorite exhibit in the museum?
Yeah, I actually, since as I built most of the things in this building, even some of the cases, and I laid the floor, I painted the walls, I hung the drywall, I was the plumber, because I used to be a welder before photography, and so I did all the plumbing. And so I kind of built this. It's like my little baby. And this table right behind me is a table when they were gutting a Mellon Bank building downtown to do that Lord and Taylor's store. They were throwing everything out. And a guy came to me with this case, and I'll walk over there, see if we can not get everybody car sick. But there's this case that came to me, and I had just painted this flag for my photography, just to take a photograph of it. It took me a year. And when I give little talks to kids, when kids come to the museum, I get them to this spot and I try to inspire kids. I'm like, it took me a year to paint these baseballs just to make a flag, to take a photograph of it. The photograph took a day or two. Once I had it shot and the film processed, I had the balls, and I was like, and there's 210 of them painted in there, and they cost 20 to 25 bucks a piece. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And it was too heavy to try to build it and hang it on a wall. And a guy shows up with a couple of these tables that he got out of the trash, and it's a Mellon bank table where they used to have, your deposit slips and stuff in there.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I said, I don't like it's kind of too modern for me with the metal. I like wood stuff. Everything in here is like wood, an antique piece of wood furniture, that fits the 1800s farmhouse. And I was like, and then my brain went boom. I was like, that's the shape of a flag kind of proportions. And I was like, yeah, I'll take one of those. And I laid it down in the basement for a couple months. And then finally I was like, all right, it's time to get that thing put together, get the legs back on and get it upstairs. And we cleaned it out, got rid of some of the wood pieces in the middle and put that flag in there. Yeah. Sure enough, it's 2007. It's opening day. We're playing the Cardinals, and Albert Pujols comes here with Roberto Jr. And the three of us did the 2-3 hour tour. And at that moment in time, and pretty much most of his career, Albert Pujols charges $500 to sign a baseball. And so I don't have it that day, $500 to give him. And I wanted some proof that Albert came here. And so I say, hey, Albert, what if you sign me one of these baseballs? And maybe we can start something off in here. And that's proof that you've been here, because no one's going to believe me. And so he goes, okay. And so him and I, we take this glass that weighs about 400 pounds on here. It's like 3/4 of an inch thick, and it's the original glass. And we lift it off, we pull this baseball out, and he signs one right here. It's the first one, and he dates it, April 15, 2007. And so, and then he gets traded to the Angels. Comes back in 2012, boom, signs one. Comes back with the Dodgers with Dave Roberts and Will Smith and a couple guys, and signs another one. So in the flag, he's the only person that there's more than one signature on the ball. He's in there 3 times. But then once everybody started coming, I've got Aaron Judge, I got Machado, I got Kutch, I got Tony Dungy, who wore 21 when he played for the Steelers. I got Troy Polamalu, Steve Carell. Got Steve Carell, who came in with his Boston Red Sox hat on, left with one of these on, stayed for 5 hours. We drank some wine in the cellar. He told me a bunch of his stories about loving baseball growing up. And so now when guys come, Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam's in there, Bruno Sammartino, Smokey Robinson. And so it started this thing off to where it's full. And now I tell everybody, because they're like, oh, you haven't had that many visitors here. I'm like, well, actually, I have had a lot of visitors here. And then I say, if you're hitting below the Mendoza line, you go back in there. And so I'm going to do a Mendoza sign and put his signed baseball right here by the doorway and tell everybody, because the players, when they come, when they come on their second time, their 5th time, their 10th time. The Washington Nationals been here 9 years in a row. The Padres 5 years in a row. Some of the teams, they just keep coming over and over. And so when the guys come and they're walking around with some other guys that have never been here, they look into the flag to see if they're still in there. And I'm like, please, dear God, let his baseball be in there. Because it's hard for me to memorize all those signatures, because there's 210 in the flag, and then there's another 30 pilfered around the outside of the flag. So there's a lot of baseballs in there.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of baseballs in here. This whole piece of furniture is full. And then I'll walk you back here, because I think we're going to talk about a bat that's in here. And so,
Okay.
and the sound is nice in here. And so, yeah, so there's about 100 balls. There's another 20 down there. That piece of furniture's got about 150 balls in all those drawers and stuff. And so a lot of people have been here on tours. Like I say, I've had the teams now for last 8, 10 years straight. They keep coming. The Yankees were here 2 years in a row. Missed last year because we played them in New York, but they're coming opening day. So we'll have them buzzing around. The Mets. Juan Soto's been here 5 times.
That's
5 years
insane.
straight. Yeah.
I was most excited and you had all these big names, but I was most excited to see the Paul Skeens ball, and I knew he was a recent signee. Whenever he came to do his initial press conference after getting drafted, the Clemente Museum was one of the places he stopped at, right?
Yep. One of his first stops. And he was 21 years old. We went to the cellar. He was with his parents who love wine. We did a little toast down in the cellar. And he's come back a couple times and he loves it here. And he already reached out to me and said he's coming opening week when they get back to Pittsburgh. So that'll be cool. So we're lucky. I think if you love baseball and then wine is an additive, it's boom, you got the twofold. That's why Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam, his two favorite things in life other than music are baseball and wine. So when he came here, boom, he freaked out and stayed for 6 hours, 8 hours, so pretty cool how people love it here. They love just the feeling of the property. Like I say, 1896 firehouse. It just has it has history. You remember the story that it was vacated on New Year's Eve of 1972 at 9 o'clock at night. I didn't know that when I bought the property. So
Right.
These are some of the things that have been happening to me as we unearth stories about the property, about Roberto, about Lou Gehrig sleeping here in 1927. That's fantastic. It's the opposite of 72. And then it's him and Roberto were the only two guys to bypass the 5-year waiting list to the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's just like, it just goes on and on and on. And so when those guys hear some of those stories, they go crazy.
I know I got you in this room back here, and we wanted to share a story about. I asked you before we started an item you guys obtained in maybe a different way, a strange way.
Yeah.
And if you want to tell us about that item?
Yeah. Before we go to the one that's actually right behind me, a real quickie about the Adirondack bat. The reason that Adirondack bat is so precious to me is when I was 12 years old. Here again, we lived in St. Mary's, Pennsylvania, and for my birthday, one of my mom's best friends gave me a Clemente Adirondack game bat for my birthday. And we moved to Du Bois when I was 14, and we left all our baseball equipment and our baseball cards in a shed underneath our house. And we moved, 25 miles away, and spring rolls around. We moved in the beginning of winter, and hunting season was coming, and we were getting a horse, and we were, in my brain, we just weren't thinking baseball. Baseball season rolls around. I got my 3 brothers. We're like, get out the equipment. Let's play catch. Let's get loose. We were all like, wait, where's the baseball stuff? We leave everything behind. It's lost forever. It took me 35 years to get an Adirondack Clemente bat, so that one's precious to me just because it's an Adirondack and it's very similar to the one I had. And maybe it is the one I had, but I didn't document anything, back then, because you're not weighing bats and measuring bats and stuff like that. So that one is the reason that's precious. But the one right behind me, there is a bat from 1910. And you can prove it it's actually between 1910 and 1915. It says Hillerick and Son. And so that was only on the bat like 5 years. And we found it, my brother found it in a house up in Squirrel Hill that was owned by a woman, and he was paid to clean out the cellar. It was going to be a rental. And she's like, clean all that junk out of that cellar. So he was throwing everything out. And he found that bat up in the rafters of the cellar. And he brought it to me, and he knew I like baseball, and I was starting to collect a couple little pieces and stuff. And he's like, "Here, you can have this old bat." And I knew nothing about bats back then. And I actually, if you look up my calendar, the Clemente calendar out from 1994, it's on the cover of the Clemente calendar. I used it in there as a prop because I didn't have that day I was working on that photo, I didn't have a Clemente bat to use. So I put that one in there, and you just see the trademark. You just see a little piece of it sticking in the image. But it's a club of a bat. And we're pretty sure it's a Hannes Wagner. I've spent the last 10 years trying to photo match it, and that's why we're in a room that has a lot of bat photos of Hannes Wagner holding bats. And so I'm trying to get every image out there. If you know anybody that collects Wagner and has photos of him holding a bat, I'm looking for one with that tape job. So it has this little bump, right there. There's only 2 game bats of Hannes Wagner's known, and John Tauby, the bat expert, said that the same guy taped my bat that taped those other 2. I think, I've got a photo of Fred Clark holding a bat. It's pretty similar to that one, but he weighed it and measured it and everything, and he said it's definitely a bat that Wagner would have ordered. And so at one point I was like, Tauby went crazy for it. And I was like, hey, if we could prove that it's a Wagner, I'd be willing to sell it to help the Clemente Museum, just so I could buy a different Clemente bat and maybe put some money towards our elevator or something. So that's a pretty cool piece. A total club. It's corked. I had it x-rayed. It's corked about 8 inches down inside. The end's drilled out, and it's got a little plug in it. It's cool as hell. You were allowed to do whatever you wanted back then. There was no rule about corking. And so it's a great bat. But I've got I'm a bat freak, as you probably remember from that bat room. And I could take people in. If you want to go for a walk into that bat room, I could go in there and spin you around.
It's up to you. If you want to give, we got about 10 minutes left. If you want to give people a quick glimpse of another area of the museum, I'd be fine with it, but It's up to you.
Yeah, I'll walk in. Let's see. Like I say, hopefully I'm not making anybody car sick. Before, I used to have this thing on wheels. During COVID, I had a little apparatus where I could walk along. Maybe what I'll do is I'll get out of the shot and I'll walk you as slowly as I can. And it's just an endless amount of really good stuff. And as like we talked, a lot of bats. There's one of my favorites. There's the last bat Roberto ever touches. He's giving a clinic to kids a couple days before he passes away, and that's the bat he was using. And Vera gave me that for helping her with a project in Puerto Rico. It's a pretty neat piece. And then I do want to spend 1 minute on another one of my favorites is that San Juan Senators jersey. He's wearing that in 72 as he's managing and playing for the San Juan Senatores. And we have that photo match. That's one of the best pieces in this building because it could be possibly the last jersey he ever touches. Because after the Pirates and his 3,000 hits, he goes back and plays the season and manages the team. So that's a really cool piece. And then those contracts from Puerto Rico, his first contract with Santurce's right there, 50, 52, 53. That's a pretty cool piece. But then, I'll take, because you show the bat room pretty good on your video, but this thing here is for me is just, I love this room. And this is where the players, they'll bring me a bat. I tell them they don't have to pay the Clemente, the $21 fee if they bring me a game used bat. And so I've got 450 game used.
That's so cool.
And then sometimes they'll send me a jersey or they'll give me one on the field when I'm down there doing my baseball photos. And there's some of them there. And so we've got a few good things hanging around, no pun intended. And so, I love bats. Here's one of our best supporters, Sean Casey, the mayor of Cincinnati. One loves it here and wore 21 and is just a fantastic human. He's on our board of directors. His big fundraiser is coming up this Friday. If anybody's looking, he's got some good Pearl Jam stuff on his auction. Take a look. Probably the coolest ukulele you'll ever see. There's Bryce Harper's cleats that I got off of him after he was here and said Clemente didn't bat against any good pitchers.
Yeah.
MLB did a story on him on Clemente Day, and so I saw those cleats and I was like, hey, maybe I talked to Davey Martinez. I was like, see if Bryce would give us those cleats for the museum. And they came and FedEx showed up and boom, there they were. So
awesome.
they're pretty cool. Totally game used. Here, I'll show. Right? That's game used.
That's cool.
Yeah. There's only one pair of those in the world. So we've been blessed to make friends with some of these guys. And I tell people that the reason this is important here, this room, is a lot of grandkids will tag along with their grandfathers, right? The average Clemente guy is that's seen him play is my age. I'm in my 60s. So 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. We get people here in their 90s and they'll bring their grandkids. Well, a 10-year-old kid's going to get pretty bored after an hour and a half of someone talking about Roberto Clemente. But when they get to come in here, their eyes pop out of their heads and they see all these bats and stuff. And so, it just adds to the whole, these people are coming back over and over again. And they, like I say, they bring their sons, they bring their grandkids, then it gives them something to look at and they can connect.
And you guys are doing it right, Dwayne. I love the ideas you guys came up with and the connection to the current game to the players of the past. I mean, that's what it's all about. I love that.
Yeah. We can connect with them and then they help spread the word. They'll wear the shirt. Like Nick Castellanos wears his shirt all the time, so people are like, what's up with the 21? Roberto Clemente. You start talking Clemente and then maybe you search them and then hopefully you end up here for a tour. And then you can learn some stories that you've never heard about the man, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, Dwayne, the last kind of question, and I don't know if you have a great answer for it right now, is what's the future hold for the museum as far as the next couple of years? Like, is there something you guys are working on project-wise outside the elevator? Is there anything going on that we should know about?
Well, I don't think we put something up that's relatively new right now. We have a photo exhibit here. We were lucky to host the National Baseball Photographers Group, and they inducted these 8 photographers into their Hall of Fame. And I was talking with the guy who put everything together, Alex, and I said, hey, do you have images of these photographers that we can put up on the wall when you're talking about these guys? And he's like, no, we don't have anything like that. I said, can you give me the list of the photographers? And he sends the list over, and it's Teenie Harris, a Pittsburgher, and Charles Conlon, who was my idol. The reason I shoot that Greg Maddux shot right there is because Conlon has that image of, I think it's Christy Matheson showing his pitching hands and stuff. And so he inspired me. And so we get to the list of these 8 photographers, and I'm walking around the museum and I'm like, wait, we have all these guys here. So I put an exhibit together, and it's in my photography studio right now of these great photographers. And then they inducted some new guys this year. And so we're going to kind of keep that growing. And so it's photos, Conlon photographed Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Ted Williams, all those guys when they were very young. And so there's great images. And so we have that whole exhibit in the studio right now. And so I want to kind of expand on that. And that's one of these guys that I was telling you about, the Topps baseball photographer. He's going in next. And I'm going to try to get a bunch of his stuff on the wall here. And so that we can just keep expanding our horizons a little bit. And it's not going to be, predominantly Clemente, but Roberto's been photographed by some of those photographers. So we want to keep adding to the collection. We want to get the elevator finished because I don't know if Vince told you the story, but the reason I'm so hell-bent on getting an elevator to get people up here to the second floor, but I want to actually get people to the floor above us, the roof, where we're building a batting cage. and
Oh wow.
going to call it the Juan Soto. He gave me the idea. When he comes here, he's not a big wine drinker. He'll have a glass to be social, a little toast, and then sets it down and spends the next 3-4 hours swinging every bat in this building. And it's like, and he goes, man, if I could just hit a baseball somewhere. And I was like, wait a minute. Just like when Vera said, it's like a museum here now. It was the same feeling I had inside. I was like, ooh, a base. Oh man, if I could get him hitting baseballs on the roof, and then maybe guys to be willing to come over and give a little clinic on a Saturday at noon before they have to be at the stadium at 3. And I could get, try to inspire some kids by people like a Josh Bell and a Manny Machado and, Pete Alonso would do it for us in 2 seconds. He loves talking with kids. So if I could just get these guys just, showing kids how to hit, how they get into the batter's box, how they grip the bat, just, do some of their techniques. So that's a big plan. If we can get that batting cage, up.
That's cool.
Boom.
That would be so cool. I love that idea.
That makes national news right there.
That would be. So before we get off here, I just want to let everybody know. I'm gonna put a link down below to the website for the Clemente Museum, and also it's something we didn't bring up, but Duane also has a banquet room where he rents out the space for any type of event. So that's one of the ways a museum makes money is having events there. So if you live in the Pittsburgh area or are a Clemente fan, what better place to have an event than in the museum? So Duane, if I misspoke there, go ahead and correct me before we leave. Okay?
No, that's the truth. We've been doing events and fundraisers for other nonprofits, and we do some rehearsal dinners. We don't do weddings because they get a little crazy. We want to protect the collection. Yeah. But we do birthday parties, and we'll do, we have the big wine cellar downstairs too that has a table that sits 30 people. So we'll do some dinners, private dinners down there. It's all in the name of Clemente, and all to help this whole building keep paying the utilities, paying the bills, and kicking some money towards the elevator fund. So everything is, to keep this going.
That's cool. All right. Well, Duane, I had about 3 or 4 more questions, and I had about like 10 more things I'd love to see. So why don't we do this again sometime soon? I just had such a great time. The hour flew by. I appreciate it.
Oh man, it seems like 10 minutes. And I tell people when I'm talking here to people, and I had a group last night, I said I can go 12 hours on Roberto Clemente. So just so you know. So I got plenty more to talk about, but yeah, let's do a part 2 down the road a little bit, and hopefully we'll acquire some of these negatives and get, some more film, and we can talk baseball cards and stuff.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks so much, Duane. This was awesome. Thanks to anybody that stuck around, watched this. Like the video if you could, if you really enjoyed it, because that'll help spread the word out there for us. And we appreciate you watching. I'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thanks.